Hi guys, and welcome back to Love English. I'm Leila, and today's lesson is going to help you be more polite, the British way. Today we're going to look at idioms to help you become more polite and expressions, idiomatic expressions that you might very well hear English native people using when they speak, or of course in films, television shows. These idioms are incredibly common and they are all connected with good manners and being polite. So before we get started, do make sure that you click that subscribe button and as well sign up for notifications so you are one of the first to be notified when our lessons go live. That way you'll be one of the first to watch, comment, like, share the lesson, and as well get responses from Sabrah and I. We love to correct your English down in the comments box below. Use it as a homework section. Practice these idiomatic expressions to make sure that you and people you know are more polite. Now, we all know how important good manners and politeness is in the UK. Always using please and thank you is vital if you want to have good manners. But on occasion, we all pardon my French. Idiom number 1 is very commonly used when English people swear. Now, if you are French, I hope you're not offended by this idiomatic expression. It really is a joke. It's apologizing for using a swear word, bad language, cursing, if you will, and basically it's suggesting that you didn't swear but you used a foreign word. And France, being the closest neighbor to England, has become part of the joke. So when you say a bad word, when you swear by accident in front of someone that you shouldn't, and you want to apologize, we often, very often say, pardon my French, or excuse my French. So you realize that you shouldn't have used that language and you're apologizing for it in a joking kind of way. So hopefully you guys don't swear and won't need to use this idiom, but if you do, in front of your teacher, in front of someone's parents, try not to do it in front of children, then you can say, pardon my French, excuse my French. Idiomatic expression number 2, and I would say that I hear this less frequently. It's probably an older idiomatic expression, and it is to bow and scrape. Now, in this case, bowing, like this. Scraping, I suppose, is showing that you are showing lots of respect and bowing very deeply, because to scrape is this action. It's to touch the floor or an object and go right to the bottom. It's very difficult to explain scrape. It's going right to the bottom. So when you're talking about bowing and scraping, it means people are being excessively polite and careful with their manners. Too much, really, that perhaps it doesn't seem genuine or over the top, more than it needs to be. So for example, when the boss arrived, there was a lot of bowing and scraping. People were excessively polite. Too much. Number 3 is a nice simple idiomatic expression to say something is the done thing. An action is the done thing. In this case, we're saying it's the correct way to behave in a particular situation. So, for example, it's the done thing to get the boss a coffee in the morning. It's the done thing around here. It's the polite way, the correct way to be doing things in a certain situation. For example, at reception, it's the done thing to greet people with a smile. Idiomatic expression number 4. Rather than you saying and using bad language, this is if somebody else speaks in a way that you are not happy with. So for example, if someone swears, what you could say is, mind your language. You wouldn't say, don't swear. Well, you could, but it's more common for us to use the idiom, mind your language. Remember, idiomatic expressions are sometimes a way of softening your language, of not being too direct or aggressive. So, mind your language. Could you mind your language, please? don't swear. Idiomatic expression number 5. I actually did a little bit of research here because the origins of this expression are mixed. A lot of people are saying different things. The expression is to mind your P's and Q's. So for example, when you meet the Queen, you need to mind your P's and Q's. Now, P and Q, I thought it stood for something. However, the research that I did suggested that it could be from the printing press. When we initially first started using the printing press, P's and Q's could get confused because they look very similar when they're printed. But if they're the wrong way round, then they'll look like a P or vice versa. Or it could come from when children are being taught to write. And again, P and Q, when you get it the wrong way round, completely different meaning. So to mind your P's and Q's refers to when you are asking somebody to be careful, to pay attention to how they are behaving. So it is often something that you might say to your children, to younger generations. You need to mind your P's and Q's in front of the teacher. You need to mind your P's and Q's when we visit their house. It's advising them to be careful of how they behave. Rather than being too aggressive and strong, behave, be good, you can say, mind your P's and Q's. Make sure that you behave in the correct way and you're polite. Number 6. This expression is if somebody is not polite. If you think somebody has behaved in an unfair or upsetting way, their behavior has upset somebody, has even offended somebody, you would say to them, you've overstepped the mark. Let's imagine this is the line where behavior is acceptable. And if you go over this line, you've overstepped the mark. So you have behaved in a way that is not acceptable, that could be insulting or offensive to somebody, and your behavior was not correct. In the same way, we could say that you crossed a line, you crossed a line. This is a little bit stronger, I would say. If you tell someone they've crossed a line, their behavior really has affected you very negatively and you think they've been exceptionally rude or badly behaved. So again, this is a nice way of telling somebody you are not happy with their behavior. You've overstepped the mark or you've crossed a line. So 2 examples to overstep the mark or to cross the line. The boss was really angry. You overstepped the mark when you told him he was wrong in front of everyone. Or stronger, ruder, you really crossed a line when you told her she'd put on weight. Bad behavior, offending somebody, upsetting somebody because of what you've said or how you've behaved. Right, so that was 6 and 7. Now 8, very, very similar, but this is specifically referring to something you would have said that again was not correct in that situation. It was not polite and probably quite rude. To speak out of turn. So when someone speaks out of turn, they usually speak at an inappropriate time, an incorrect time, and they say something tactless and inappropriate. Basically, tactless means they don't consider how they are saying something. So, for example, she spoke out of turn when she told her mother she didn't care. She spoke out of turn when she told her mother she didn't care. So it's often connected to timing and appropriateness, how well you phrase something and tell somebody something. You might even be afraid of speaking out of turn. In the meeting, I was afraid to speak out of turn. I was afraid to say something in the wrong way at the wrong time in case I caused offense. Okay, idiomatic expression number 9 is quite nice. It is to put your foot in it. So when you put your foot in it, you say something by accident. It's not intentional, you don't mean to be rude, but you say something that could upset or embarrass somebody. So for example, I asked her when the baby was due, but she wasn't pregnant. I really put my foot in it. Or I asked Sarah what her father's name was at the party, but it wasn't her father, it was her husband. I really put my foot in it. Now, number 10 is very simple and it is a great way to potentially tell someone off, to reprimand them, to tell them when their behavior is wrong. And this goes for behavior and anything that might have been said. So, the original idiom is to be out of order. You're out of order. Your behavior was out of order. What you said was out of order. In this case, you're saying they were wrong. They behaved in a very bad, inappropriate, wrong way. Or you can strengthen this by adding an intensifier. You can say, and this is a little bit slang, bang out of order. That was bang out of order. That was completely wrong, completely inappropriate, and very, very rude. So those were 10 expressions to correct not only your own behavior or language, but also other people's. Remember that idiomatic expressions are a great way to remain polite and to make sure other people are polite. So why don't you try using some of those idiomatic expressions in the comments box below? They are slightly more advanced, so you do need to be careful and check that you are using them correctly. And with the correct strength, you don't want to be too strong depending on the situation. Right guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope this lesson was enjoyable and that you will mind your P's and Q's.